Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to the Politics Show. Today we're joined by Kirklees Labour councillor Harpreet Uppal, who became West Yorkshire's first female Sikh councillor last May. Harpreet, firstly, thank you for coming on to the show today. It's great to have you on. Almost a year on since that historic election victory. How have you found life in politics and as a councillor so far?
Yeah, it's been good so far. I've really enjoyed it. It's definitely felt like it's gone really quick. Wasn't expecting it to go as quick as it has. But yeah, just really enjoying being a councillor and just taking in all the experiences that I've had in the last year, really.
And becoming West Yorkshire's first female Sikh councillor as well must be something which gives not only you a massive sense of pride, but obviously the whole community and your family and your friends as well.
Yeah.
Can you put into words how you felt when that election victory did come in?
Yeah, I mean, the ward that I'm in, we've had 3 Labour councils for some time, so the expectation was that, you know, hopefully as long as we worked hard, I should have become the council. But obviously you're always in a way that puts pressure on you to make sure that you stand up to that. And when it did happen, it was amazing. I've got to say, for my family, it meant a lot, and it meant more than I thought it ever would do, really. And the Sikh community's been really positive. Went to the Gurdwara, both in Fartown. We've got 2 in Huddersfield, and went to both, and they were all very supportive. So it meant a lot to me. It really did. Yeah.
And you mentioned the Sikh community then. Mm-hmm. Do you potentially believe that your election win could maybe inspire other Sikhs, particularly Sikh females, to want to get involved in politics in the future?
I hope so. I mean, I don't know if it will or not. I think as councillors we've got a lot of work to do actually to raise awareness of what we do, and I hope it would. I hope that if anyone felt that this wasn't for them, they could at least look at this and say, actually, I can do it as well. You know, it's really important that we have people from across the spectrum involved in politics. What I would say is in 2017 we had 2 Sikh MPs. I think that's probably had much more of a, people have looked at that and thought, yeah, I can do it too. And I think we have been underrepresented, so hopefully this will help.
Of course. Do you put that down to anything in particular, that underrepresentation from the Sikh community? Because we contribute massively when it comes to the community, on professional fronts as well. We seem to be leading the way in many areas. When it comes to politics, we've always seemed to have struggled for some reason. Do you put that down to anything in particular?
Do you know, I kind of struggle with that. I don't understand why we haven't had the representation in politics, because I think if we look at things like business, we look at medicine, we look at law, all of that, we've seen representation increase, but for whatever reason, it's not quite happening in politics, and maybe part of that is just because there wasn't many people to look up to. And I actually feel like as councillors, we can make a difference to some extent, but I think the 2 MPs that have been elected, Preet Gill and Tandesi, I think those 2 will have a massive impact actually, and I think we will start seeing more and more people coming forward. And I think we just also as a group need to make sure that we're supporting any young people that are interested in politics, and make sure we really support them on their journey as well. Of
course. And national politics is more black, Asian and minority ethnic MPs now than ever before. But personally, do you believe there's still quite a lot to do to improve diversity, not just on the national political scene, but also in local government as well?
Certainly do. I think we must do more. The more diverse we are, the better representation we get. And I think it's across the board. We look at race, we look at socio-economic status. We've got so much more to do to make sure working class people are involved in politics, disabled people. You know, a lot of time, if we have a narrow group of people making decisions, on the majority of those policies, they're going to end up making the wrong decisions because we're not taking account of people's diversity. So we must do more. We all do. I think as leaders, it's really important that we do that now.
Of course. I think there is sort of cross-party consensus that more needs to be done. But are you confident that more will be done in years to come when it comes to improving diversity across politics?
Yeah, I think we are going down that route. We've, in the Labour Party, I would say we've had women shortlists for a long time. And I know sometimes for some people, there's perhaps been some controversy around that, but actually we wouldn't have the representation of women without them. So I thought that was really important. And I do think there is more work to be done to increase BME representation, also for disabled people, because in some ways there's lots of barriers that we're not even thinking about in terms of disabled people. But I think we will get there, and I think those of us that are getting into politics, we must do more. We have to shout as well, shout loudest. So I'll certainly continue doing that.
And I just want to bring you back to the local politics now. Since that election victory, what would you say has been, I'm sure you've had many challenges, but if you had to single out one or two particular things, what have been the most challenging aspects of being a councillor?
Yeah, I think firstly, you have to get out there and make sure people know who you are. A lot of people don't know who their local councils are, so I've certainly, with my colleagues, my two fantastic Labour colleagues, we've been going out and about making sure people know who we are and they can contact us. That's the first thing. I think competing demands, so as a council, a lot of us also work alongside that, so managing my work and also my council demands has been it's taken a bit of time for me to get used to, really. And the other thing I would say is in the council chamber sometimes, I mean, we had a full council meeting last Wednesday, and at that meeting I said that as a new member, some of the behaviour in the chamber is actually quite appalling. How we speak to people from different parties isn't very good, and that's not for me. I don't like that. That sort of behaviour, so I'd hope that we can try and change that, really.
Of course. And despite the numerous challenges, I'm sure it's been quite a rewarding role in many respects. Is that fair to say? And is there any particular things that stand out that have been quite rewarding and satisfying that you've been able to achieve during your time as a councillor?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely rewarding. What I really like doing is the grassroots stuff. So for me, getting to understand my community much better, I've lived in this area my whole life, but actually I knew very little about the community involvement, the number of community groups that do so much for our area, didn't know about. So being able to engage with them to make change, I think, is what I've enjoyed the most, really. And I mean, most recently, I remember I wrote a letter to a resident who contacted me about poverty. We had very different ideas about how to tackle issues with poverty, but he rang me up and told me where he thought I was wrong. But by the end of it, he did say to me, he goes, I'm actually really proud that you're my representative, and it's through people like you that we are going to be able to make change. So that was nice, really, and that's what drives me, really, to be able to make change. Of course,
Obviously, you mentioned poverty there, and what we're seeing across the country now, local government budgets are really being massively cut. And there doesn't really seem to be end in sight to that at the minute. Obviously, the austerity policy is getting a hell of a lot of criticism across the country as well. Within this community here, what are some of the key issues that are facing residents, particularly the most vulnerable? I
mean, you've mentioned austerity there, and that was definitely for me, for my election, that's one of my key themes, and I should have said it earlier, so thanks for bringing that up, really. But we've lost 60% of our budget that comes through central government grants. So central government grants make up the big basis of local government funding. So we're now at a basis where we're working from 40p to £1, on services. So that's a massive effect on, what we can deliver to our residents. And here, I would say, in the area that we're in here, my ward is very different. So you've got parts that are quite affluent, but you've also got parts that are very deprived. So we've got issues around employment, skills, and one of the things I think we've really lost out, unfortunately, is around the early intervention agenda. I think we're trying to bring that back, but we've cuts up to 6%. That's really hard, and that for me is a big challenge to make sure we get it right at the beginning of a child's life. If you miss out on those first, we talk about the first 100 days, pre-birth, we have to get that right for that child to have the right opportunities in life, and that's a real challenge, I think, at the moment for us.
Of course. And I mean, across the country there is quite a lot of anger from the public with council tax bills seeming to go up year after year, but on the other side, services aren't necessarily improving. Do you acknowledge that anger and disappointment from residents when they see they're having to fork out more and more each year?
I totally recognise that. For some, my own dad, when he's opening up the council tax bill, he's like, well, it's gone up again, what's going on? So totally understand that. What I'd go back to is the fact that we've got an austerity agenda from this government. The Institute for Fiscal Studies recently said, because we had the spring statement from the Chancellor, they said, actually, we don't need austerity right now. It's happening because it's a political choice. If you look at the budget going forward, we could reduce some of the austerity measures, and that's not happening. I think we're doing the best we can under the cuts, and we are trying to be ambitious. So we are trying to think about what do we do around early intervention. But unfortunately, we are having to increase the council tax to try and even off some of the cuts that we're facing. And I totally recognise that there's going to be some upset around that, absolutely.
Of course, I want to bring the next topic to Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn. he is getting a lot of criticism from all sides, but at the same time he's obviously got a lot of support from the Labour membership as well. In your view, is Jeremy Corbyn the right person to be leading Labour into the next general election, whenever that will be? Yeah,
I mean, what I would say is at the time when the leadership election took place, I voted for Andy Burnham at the time. And Jeremy was, at the end of the day, he was voted in on a massive majority. He's had to go through it twice, a leadership election, and each time I think he increased his vote the second time, and he got a massive majority. I think at this time, he's got him because we want, I think Labour members as well as voters want to see something more authentic in politics. And I think on some policies he's absolutely being able to give a much clearer message. If we look at things like immigration, social security, where perhaps before we were a bit afraid about putting some of our values out there, he's been very clear on those matters. So he's the leader, he's absolutely the leader, and he's going to be taking us into the next general election. And let's not forget, at the last election, the manifesto went down really well, with people. So, I think there's definitely opportunities there.
And hand on heart, do you believe Labour could win the next general election, whenever that is?
Whenever that, God knows when it's going to happen. I do. I think if we look at the position that the Conservative Party is in at the moment, I mean, the Times, the Conservative paper this weekend put in an editorial saying that the Prime Minister should go. So we absolutely can win this election. I think we had an ambitious programme in the 2017 manifesto. We did much better than anyone ever thought we could. Obviously we didn't win, but people were saying we were going to go into the doldrums, and that did not happen. So of course we can, but it's about the programme that we put together towards a general election, really.
And I mean, securing the younger vote could be key to whoever does win the next general election as well. What do you believe is one of the keys to getting younger people more involved in the political process? I think we have seen more get involved during the Brexit sort of discussions, but I mean, when it comes to not just voting each year, but throughout discussions year on year after year, what do you believe is the key to getting youngsters involved?
So I think they need to be engaged in politics. It's quite clear they have been engaged, I think, in the last few years. Not just with Brexit, but I think, if you look at the Labour Party, I think that manifesto has spoken more to young people recently. I think we do have to look at things like votes at 16. Do we get people involved at a younger age? People can work at that age. They'll be paying taxes, but they can't vote. That doesn't seem quite right to me. And in schools, we need to do so much more about teaching people about politics and about citizenship. We don't study politics until quite late in life, and I don't really understand that. We should be doing it much earlier on, so we can get people engaged in the system, because at the end of the day, they decide who's going to run this country. Also at a local level, I think we need to do so much more so people understand how their budget's spent, how a council works, and we have to do that through education, I think.
Obviously many people are disappointed by the state of British politics as a whole. I think some voters as well would definitely have lost trust with their politicians. Do you believe the state of British politics can get back to what it potentially once was, and get away from this sort of damaging infighting from within each party and cross-party fighting as well?
I think we can. It's a difficult time, there's no doubt about that at the moment. The discourse at the moment is very worrying to me. So I work for an MP as well, and you see some of the conversations that are going on with the public and with MPs. You do get worried sometimes, about the discourse and what could potentially happen beyond that. And we have to move on. I think hopefully with Brexit, maybe when we see a resolution, things can move on, but it's going to take some work, it really is, and there's a real disconnection at the moment. So when you are out, people feel totally disengaged, so it's not an easy answer. We've got to keep working at the grassroots level. I think that's the only way to do it, really.
And you mentioned Andy Burnham before. I know he was one of the many people which praised you after that election victory as well. Does something like that put more pressure on you when you've got people like Andy Burnham praising you and tipping you potentially for more future success on the political front in the future?
I don't know about pressure. It was really nice that he was, my local paper contacted him, and I wasn't expecting anything like that at all. So for me, it meant a lot that he took the time to speak to local people and say some nice words.
Yeah.
If anything, I'm someone who's always struggled with my confidence.
Yeah.
I think there are certain people who feel like, is this for me? Can I do this? And to have someone like that to encouraging me. And I would also say the MP I work for, Debbie Abrams, she's encouraged me immensely through the years, and they have really made a difference in me being able to stand, basically, and that's why I want to make sure I encourage other people as well.
Of course. And just on the short-term goals for you in the next 6 to 12 months, what are your main priorities here?
The next 6 to 12 months. Mainly I just want to make sure that we're doing the best for our residents. So there's a couple of initiatives that we're trying to work on locally around community safety, so making sure that our residents feel safe in the local area. The other thing is looking at how can we do, we've mentioned austerity, but what can we do together with our partners to look at pooled funding so we can bring initiatives to the local area to benefit us, basically. One of the initiatives we're looking around is around community wealth building, so how do we keep money that is spent in Kirklees within Kirklees. So it's those sort of things that I'm focusing on, really. I want to do the best for my residents here to make sure that they've got the best opportunities in life, really. So.
Of course, and I mean, in the longer term, do you have political ambitions, maybe, I don't know, potentially to be an MP one day or anything like that? Where do you see yourself in 10 to 15 years?
10 to 15 years, or maybe retired now. I'm not sure yet, to tell you the truth. I mean, like I say, I think I'll have to see going down the road. Really, at the moment, I'm focused on this. And I think I've always probably put barriers up for myself in a lot of the ways. I think, can I do this? I'm constantly asking myself, can I actually get there? I think I'm getting to a point where I feel a little bit more confident in my own abilities. And we'll see going forward. I do want to have more of a say about what we do here in this area to make it better for everyone. Absolutely. And that might be looking at how do I progress within the council or by other means, but I certainly don't have a plan in place right now other than working for my residents locally.
And you mentioned the barriers there. Have you potentially, now you're doing more things that maybe once you wouldn't have potentially had the confidence to have done? Is that fair to say? Oh, definitely.
I think it's only through experience that you realise that you can do it. So sometimes when you're looking at it from afar, you're thinking, I don't know, I'm not going to be able to make a decision on that. I'm too indecisive. And so I think definitely that experience, now being in it, I realised actually I can do it. I'm not so far behind everyone else as I think I felt before. But also just having people around you who encourage you, it means so much. It really does. And I don't think I realised how much that would benefit my confidence as well, and it has. And that's why I want to make sure that no one else is put off. I almost think, why did I put myself off for so long? I want to make sure that other people don't feel that way.
Have your family been quite supportive as well since you were elected? And do you believe it is quite crucial to have that support from family and friends as well for someone who is quite interested in potentially getting involved in politics?
What I would say is, definitely encourage younger people. Don't put them off. I think sometimes as family, we sometimes want to decide what's good for our young people. Actually, let's not step on people's dreams, whatever that is, just because we might not necessarily think that's the way to go forward. And some of that comes from fear, doesn't it? You just want someone to have a stable job and the rest of it. But we must try and support them as much as we can in their dreams and opportunities. Absolutely.
It's been great to have you on the show today. Really insightful. So thanks for your time. And thank you everyone for watching. That's all for today. Make sure to tune in next time for the Politics Show. Vagru ji ka khalsa, vagru ji ki fateh.